tell a little bit about who was Terrence Perry, the little boy, back in the day, before you became the author, before you became the survivor and everything. Tell people a little bit about who was TP.
TP. TP was the little boy named Tony back in the day. My middle name was Antonio, so everybody called me Tony. Now, back in the day, I was a stutterer. Anybody that know me from school back in the day, I was a stutterer, and that was kind of how I flowed, just keeping my mouth shut. But as I got older, by the time I got to, I grew up, and by the time I got to St. Aug, um, and I go into that later, but by the time I got to St. Aug, I think my second year, I was able to speak, and I guess that's when y'all started hearing my voice.
So let me ask you something. When you were a little boy, where were you raised? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Franklin County, which is probably about 20, probably less than 20 miles past Wake Forest.
Okay, so you're from North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah.
Been in North Carolina all your life?
All my life. Yeah.
Wow. So how was it growing up? You were stuttering. So back then, was you a dreamer? Did you dream about being an author? Did you dream about having your own business?
All I could do was dream. But yeah, I was, we was in a rural area. I had 8 brothers and sisters. It was 9 of us. We stayed in probably a 4-room house. I was going to say a 4-bedroom, but no, it was 4 rooms. For at least my first 10 years of life, we stayed in a 4-room. It was on farmland, so there weren't any neighbors. There weren't any neighbors for like I said, and then probably in 69 or 70, 1970 is when we actually moved in a black community that was up and coming. So we kind of, as the Jeffersons say, we was moving on up at that point.
Wow. Okay. So before you became the author and did everything, middle school, high school, I know you went to St. Augustine, what we call St. Aug College back in the day. So talk to me about that. Back in those days, or was you an ambitious person, or what was life like for you?
Life for me, like I said, I was a stutterer, so my mindset was kind of wrapped around it. By the time I got in middle school, I was introduced into bricklaying. So between bricklaying and basketball, I knew I was going to do one or the other. But by the time I got in high school, I was still playing basketball, still laying bricks. And I started working, actually, the bricklaying instructor, he would take us out to work, might go to school half a day, and then we go work the other half. But I realized, my dream of playing basketball wasn't gonna flourish. My game won't. I found that out when I got to St. Aug, that my game won't that tight. When I seen all those 6'8" and 6'9" and 6'7" guys, I knew, the guys that were my height were playing point guard, and they had handles.
Yeah. So what years were you at St. Aug, Terrence?
I got to St. Aug in '79.
Okay, so you were there when I was a sophomore. Okay.
And
okay. So
I dropped out
we had an awesome team back then. That was the Anthony Bogans and Reggie Max and all of them. Oh yeah.
Every year we had a good team. From the whole time I was there. And I didn't leave until '84. I dropped out 2 semesters. That financial aid and but I would. I was working full time, so I would get back in at St. Aug. Probably dropped out sophomore year for a semester. Got back, but by '84 I was out of there. So
wow. So now I know that since I've met you in the last couple of years when we reconnected, I know you talked a lot about your recovery and some of your addictions, the alcohol and the adversity. I know you focus a lot on that, and you focus on helping others to rebuild their lives and overcome those things. So talk to me about that. When did you begin to go down that road of your recovery, and how did you get there?
Well, hey, before I got to that recovery, I was in that addiction. So, if I think I came out of St. Aug in '84, um, probably within the middle, I know the mid '80s and later '80s, cocaine was out there. By the late '80s, I think I had started. I was always drinking. I had always been a drinker, but I had started snorting cocaine. I think in like '88, '89, probably '90. But by '91, by '91, I had met this female from California, and we were doing cocaine, but she introduced me to crack cocaine, and that was where the downward spiral for, I mean, at least a straight year, maybe year and a half, that my career, everything. I mean, if you're doing crack cocaine on a regular basis, and I was doing it on a regular basis by that time, it was downhill. So, and I probably was what, like 31, maybe 32. I didn't see myself being living past 32.
Mm.
At that point, I thought that's what was going to take me out.
Wow. So you met this individual, she turned you on, you went down that road of addiction, and how did you get out of it? Or let me ask you this, before you got out of it, I'm sure you had some losses, I'm sure you had some challenges along the way.
Well, yeah, it was. I mean, with cocaine, like I said, I probably started snorting cocaine in, like I said, probably '88, '89, maybe during a holiday or doing or a celebration of some kind. It wasn't a regular thing, but by the beginning of the '90s, that snorting cocaine became more regular. Going to the clubs, when you left the club, that's what we did. But by probably by '91 or '92, when I met this female from California, and probably 3 weeks after being introduced to her, we started doing crack cocaine. But that downward spiral, it really was spending a lot of money, and I probably was spending. I could spend $1,000 on a weekend, just staying in a hotel room all weekend getting high.